I'm Theranki Ramatrago. Rituals. When I lived in New York City during the 70s and 80s, one night I stood in the Lower East Side's Tompkins Square Park near Avenue B, near the Avenue B side of the park, at a bit of architecture that has 4 pillars surrounding a small urn. A young Native American guy stood nearby, who I often saw in the area, but with whom I had never spoken. He had always seemed a bit unapproachable. I remember his first and last names. Here, I'll just say his first name, Billy. Now, for some reason, he spoke to me that night, and then he never did again. Paraphrasing him here, he asked me whether I knew that New York City was chock full of witchcraft covens, black magicians, and elitist Satanists. I said no. Then he suggested that, therefore, I probably don't know that they perform dark arts rituals involving human and especially child sacrifices at selected locations in the city at certain specified dates on the calendar. I indicated that I didn't know that either. And finally, he informed me that on those dates, during the night, such a group of people perform such a ritual right there where we stood at those 4 pillars and urn. I asked him how he knew that. And as I recall, he muttered something along the lines of, "I'm Native American. I know a lot of things." I had no idea what to say after that. And he just walked off and went back to totally ignoring me whenever our paths crossed in the neighborhood. I had tended to believe what he said, but I also found it difficult to do so. Today, however, I do not find it difficult at all. Nor do I find it at all difficult that such states of affairs exist globally, and especially among the upper ranks of the global social ladder, and have existed for millennia. Not difficult, but easy, given what I have learned in so many ways since that night in Tompkins Square Park, with some of those ways being the same ones that many of us are now learning these same things. Right now, the undercurrent of news from WikiLeaks, the New York Police Department, the FBI, just behind the somewhat attention-grabbing news about email scandals, point directly at such what we might correctly call purely wicked and evil activities running rampant among our social elite and their henchmen and women, ongoingly pervading the fabric of human society. If you stop for a moment and just feel the atmosphere, perhaps you can feel the presence of the psychic energy associated with this looming darkness. Leaked information from Secret Service and related sources indicate that President Obama and Hillary Clinton's very presence involves such a foul odor as well as horrific personal psychic emanation that attending agents have literally trembled and soiled their pants. And by the way, when did I write this? This was 2016 when I wrote this. Soiled their pants. The terrifying evil atmosphere accompanying these leaders of state being so strong. Among the many levels of sinister agenda to which I could refer with respect to the ruling hierarchy of this planet, well, I must stay on message here. Therefore, for now, I simply point out just one of the esoteric levels of purpose behind child abduction, ritualistic rape, and sacrifice. It's a matter of energy. At this level of discourse, while the rest of us see flesh and blood involved, the upper rank doers of the deeds see energy. While we think bodies and minds, they think energy. Let me explain. Starting with a few established premises. 1, all levels and forms of matter boil down to energy. Okay? 2, by way of our physical senses, we perceive only a very narrow bandwidth of energy vibration. What we see around us spatially is far from the totality of what actually exists there. At all locations and times, levels, planes, dimensions, and universes of manifestation, What we call reality is teeming, brimming, full of life forms, of living energy, being and beings, almost all of which lie beyond the scope of our physical senses. Okay? Now, one structure of the aforementioned rituals has to do with their geographic locations. Locations are selected according to the thinness of their veils, separating our normally acknowledged physical plane and the more subtle planes of energy just beyond it. Locations where energies can most easily be transferred from one realm to another. Locations where entities can most easily manifest across the normal boundaries. And one function of such rituals is to affect these transfers and manifestations. Another structure of these rituals involves their elaborateness. One function of their elaborateness serves to build the fear of their child victims, to levels well beyond mere fear or dread, to the furthest reaches of terror. This terror releases a level of adrenaline into the blood of the child victims that is unique to such terror. At the same time, this unique, high magnitude, low vibrational, emotional, and psychic energetic state pervades the less physical and more esoteric components of the child's being. Another structural component of these rituals involves the symbols used in them. These symbols set up the window, a circle, through which the present energy vibrations can most easily transfer and through which life forms can most easily manifest or otherwise participate in such energy transferences, including the so-called possessions of the ritual's participants. Why child victims and sacrifices? Why the long history of so-called virgin sacrifices, in other words, children? Is because of the pure and therefore optimal energy involved in the transference. Once puberty is reached, or even earlier, the child's energy, chemical and otherwise, transforms into less optimal states for the vampiric and parasitic needs associated with the rituals. Another function of the rituals, at least by way of their already discussed structures, is the energetic, even to the point of physical, connections made with the entities and ancient gods about which the rituals exist and to whom the entailed sacrifices are made. Connections which include what is commonly known as possession. Whether these entities are natural ones or are long-standing artificial ones, in other words, thought forms, is not as important as are the facts that they are actual, potent, and hungry. Hungry for energy. The lowest levels of the purest possible human soul energy. At its highest level of magnitude. And the three main ways that this energy is transferred to these so-called gods are: 1, the raping, especially anally, of the child victims, thereby releasing and transferring their lowest chakra vibrations full force. 2, by the sacrificial snuffing of the life force from the child victims at the peak of their pain, torment, and terror. And 3, by the drinking of their terror adrenaline-saturated blood. Now, with that having been set forth, let's briefly compare one or two aspects of these rituals with certain of the daily activities of the common populace. Ready? For example, the killing, cooking, and ingestion of other mammalian life forms, such as cows. The terror that runs throughout the psyche of their species at our structures built for their slaughter. Their slaughter which functions to satiate our hunger for the energy that we derive from their flesh and blood. That we derive from the ongoing ritual of death at the slaughterhouses. And the daily ritual of the family circle at dinner in our homes and restaurants. Or the bloodbath ritual of war, seemingly endless throughout the popularly known history of humanity. Another one of the structures which functions to transfer high magnitude, low frequency human energy to beings and realms whose associated hunger has no limits. Or the popular music performance stages abundantly set up with symbols of the dark arts, coupled with the music's mass trance-inducing rhythms and encoded black magic lyrics, playing songs to which we sing along and to which we dance, tap our feet, and sometimes cannot get out of our minds. I could go on and on with examples, some of which you might easily recognize for what I say they involve, and others you might not. But I said I'd name only a few. I'll just go on to stick my neck out here to suggest that in many ways our entire lives, whether we know it or not, and whether we like it or not, are saturated with participation in one big, continuous, global structure of drudging, mind-numbing, and even bloody, energy-sacrificing ritual. No, I no longer find those words of Billy's difficult to believe. What he told me in Tompkins Square Park that one night years ago, no, I just wish they weren't the truth. Let us raise our personal lives above such doings. Let us refuse to participate in antiquated rituals of death, in this unnecessary procession, song, and dance of evil that lurks within and around us. Let us evolve our energy to higher levels, for otherwise we can scarcely breathe. We cannot find our own true selves. Let us proclaim the sovereignty of our soul energy. Let us know the truth of the great lie that we are seemingly bound to live. Let us not be fooled by appearances of light versus dark, but relentlessly seek the wisdom of our own inner higher selves. Let us overcome same old evils that of late are increasingly becoming obvious to the world's population. Let us overcome. Let us live. Let us grow. Let us manage our own unfoldment. Let us control our own consciousness. Let us be. Let us be. Let us love. Let us live. Let us be. I'm Taranki Ramatraka. Be well.